Shalom Aleichem Rabotai, good Erev Shabbos. Mishnah continues in the fifth parak of Maaser Sheni at the fifth Mishnah. Now, yesterday we talked about being podeh neta Revai or kerem Revai, the fourth year produce, which is quite similar to Maaser Sheni. However, by neta Revai, you can podeh it, you can redeem it onto money with a deduction for your expenses. For the owner of the property, of the orchard or the vineyard, is deducting his expenses of watering and fertilizing and even picking the fruit and guarding the fruit. Now Mishnah Hay says, Uba Shviit, on the sabbatical year, podehu b'shovyu, you redeem it at its exact value. The reason being is because we don't do the agricultural labors on the seventh year, the Shviit year, so we can't exactly deduct those as an expense because they can't even be done, so we can't pretend we're paying him to do those labors. We just let everything grow on the seventh year, and when it's time to pick, we don't hire people to pick Shviit produce. A person just picks what he needs, even from the neighbor's orchard, because everything's hefker. Mishnah continues, Im haya hakol mufker, and if he was mafker his field on a regular year, ein lo ela schar lekita, then he can deduct not the normal expense of growing these trees, but only the expense of lekita, of plucking or picking the fruit. Hapode neto ravai shalo, somebody who's redeeming his own, as in he owns it, his own produce of the fourth year, mosiv alav chamishato, he adds 1/5. Now that's the opinion we saw yesterday of Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel says he doesn't need to add a fifth. Ben shehu shalo, ben shenatan lo b'matana, whether it's really his own trees or somebody gave him the produce as a gift. And that would be as a gift when it's not fully ripe. It's smadar, it's not ripe yet, where it would be subject to truma or meiser. Then when he goes to redeem it, he's considered the owner, and he has to add the fifth, according again to Beis Shammai. Mishnah Vav now gets into the concept of Biur. Now we've mentioned Biur earlier in the parak. We've mentioned Biur by Shviit. Biur is a little bit different for Maaser Sheni and Neta Revai than it is for Shviit. So here we go in Mishnah Vav. Erev Yom Tov Rishon, Shel Pesach, Shel Revit, V'Shel Shviit. Haya Biur. So the Biur, which hard to translate, literally removal might be a good translation. So it takes place on the Erev Yom Tov of the first day of Pesach. So Erev Pesach wasn't busy enough. You also have to do a Biur of Maasrot on the fourth year and the seventh year. So on year 4, he's removing the tithes of the first 3 years. And on year 7, he's removing the tithes of years 4 through 6, because there's no tithes necessarily on the 7th Shviit year. Mishnah continues, Keitzad haya biur, how do you do biur? Notnin truma utrumat meiser lebalim. You give the truma and the trumat meiser to their owners, meaning the kohanim. Maaser Rishon lebalav, the Maaser Rishon would go to the Leviim, typically. The Mishnah describes there was a knas, a fine leveled against the Leviim, because not a lot of Leviim returned with Ezra from Babel to Yerushalayim, so there was a knas. There's a discussion, maybe that was a temporary knas. In that case, it would go to the Kohanim instead. So we're assuming without the knas, it goes to the Leviim. Maaser Ani livolav, and the Maaser Ani to its proper owner, the Anim, the poor. Maaser Sheni va bikkurim mitbarin b'kol makom. Maaser Sheni and bikkurim, the first fruits, get biorized any place. Meaning, if he can't get them to Yerushalayim, he's in a place that's far from Yerushalayim, he cannot take his bikurim, his Maaser Sheni, to Yerushalayim at the deadline, well, game over for this stuff, it has to be destroyed. However, Rabbi Shimon Omer, ha-bikurim ditanin lekohanim k'truma, that bikurim, there is a safety escape valve, you wouldn't have to destroy it, even if you can't bring it to Yerushalayim, you could give it to the kohanim like truma. The reason being, there's a pasuk in Devarim that actually calls bikurim truma, so we see they are kind of a type of truma. This is also a preview of coming attractions. We're starting Challah next Thursday, and Challah is also called a truma, so there's some overlap there. So according to Rabbi Shimon, you could give it to the kohanim instead of destroying it. Hatavshil, what if it's cooked up in a food? So now it's mixed in with other things in a cooked dish. Beit Shammai omrim tzorech levayir. Beit Shammai says you would still have to rip out the parts that are truma, that are bikkurim and Maaser Sheni. Beit Hillel omrim harehu kimivur. Beit Hillel says no. If you cooked it in a dish, it's already, there's no need to destroy it. You could be eating it. If you take it to Yerushalayim, you could go ahead and eat it even after the deadline. Shkoyach Rabosai Shabbos.